John, let's talk about New York, first
All right,
of all.
Bob.
Okay, because you've been here a good long time now and had a good chance to sort of digest the city.
Yeah.
I mean, how do you feel about New York as a city? Do you enjoy it here?
I still love it, yeah. I've been here 3.5 or 4 years, something like that. Probably 3.5. The thing I like best about it is, A, it's 24 hours. And, you know, people are always saying, what's an American? You know? Well, people aren't always saying it, actually, I'm saying it. But there's no such thing in a place like New York. You know, I don't know about the Midwest and all that, those kind of places. That's what, you know, is America, I suppose. But in New York, it's a bit like London, only more so. Like, meaning everybody's a foreigner, you know. Nobody can speak, there's no set language. You know, you get in a cab and you say, I want to go to West 44th Street, and they say, what do you say, you know? So it's like, it's that bit I like, that. Like, there's all the different nationalities here. And sometimes in the summer, it's like being in Calcutta or something. You can cut the heat with a knife, right? And you're always hearing congas going on in the park all the time. It's like a festival going on. And I just dig it.
How different is life in New York, say, by comparison with life in London? Because, I mean, I don't know New York very well at all, but first impression I get, I mean, from, say, a 34th story window, I mean, the city looks amazing, but it feels very tense down on the street.
Well, I don't know. To me, it's no tenser than Liverpool or London was. I mean, on the street in Liverpool, unless you're in the suburbs, yeah, I mean, you had to walk close to the wall, you know? And to get to the cabin, you know, for those of you who remember all that, it was no easy matter, even at lunchtime sometimes. You know, I mean, it's a tense place, you know. And Glasgow and Newcastle, London had it. When I first got to London, it was pretty nerve-wracking. We were all putting on, we're from Liverpool and we're tough bit. But there was some hard knocks down in London, you know. And I think that's what you feel. It's almost the difference between Liverpool and London, London and New York. And it has that tenseness, but it's also, it's just that it's going at a tremendous speed, you know. I don't know why, but it is, you know. So people are that kind of tenseness, you know.
What about the music business in New York, John? I mean, say, for example, places to play, because there seems so much more activity here in that respect as well.
Yeah, well, the whole music business was here. A lot of it's moved to the West Coast, you know, like, because a lot of people like to go and lie out there, you know. So a lot of the industry's gone down there. But there's still plenty of studios, you know, and musicians. There's almost cliques, which I'm not keen on. That's why I like to use, you know, a few different people from different areas. But there's a lot of action here, a lot of good musicians, and of course all the English musicians pass through here and they cut tracks or they goof around, you know, so there's always input coming in, you know.
I get the impression, really, too, that there's a much greater kind of general awareness of rock music in this country. I mean, I saw on the television yesterday that there was a news item on Jethro Tull and their gig at Madison Square Gardens the other night. I mean, is there a greater awareness of rock music over here?
Well, then, I mean, they are... Profit isn't too dirty a word here, you know, as they say. And Madison Square is the place, you know. I mean, when anybody tours America or comes from England, wherever they come from, they have to hit Madison Square Garden and the place in L.A., which I can't remember, you know. I mean, that's the ones that count. The rest is just travel. And it's a big event, you know. And the local newsmakers, 4 or 5 channels of news. I mean, there's 3 big ones, and there's a couple thrown in of local stations, and then there's the sort of the BBC one, I call it, the WNET. They all have this, so there's 8 news, and they're all looking for something to say, you know. So they always cover the big events, especially Madison Square, whether it's Muhammad Ali or Jethro Tull. You know? And it's a big event, you know. And the industry is a multi-billion-dollar industry. So I think it's bigger than the film industry now. And I think they're getting aware of that. You know?
There seems also, John, to be a really big difference now between the American singles and album charts and the charts in Britain.
That's what I'm finding out to my detriment.
Yes.
So, what I did was, I had a person at my office keep sending me the top 10 from England, because I have to find out what's going on, don't I? But, I mean, if I'm fighting If by Telly Savalas, well, I've got a long battle.
What did you think, though, to the stuff that you heard? I mean, the local stuff from Britain.
I like it because it sounds like rock and roll, you see. I only heard the first batch I got, I thought, I better check out what's going on over there. I had a feeling this rock and roll album would do better than my own stuff. After I had the first top 10 sent over and I listened to it, it was over Christmas. There was a lot of sort of imitation Elvis and rock and roll stuff. I thought, aha, oh, that's what it is, you know. It really is changing, you know.
Are you missing England very much, John?
Yeah, I try not to, you know, like I had you know, your friend here, bring me the chocolate Olivers. It's little things, you know, you miss, like black pudding, you know, and chocolate Olivers. And I don't allow myself to miss it that much, because then I couldn't carry on fighting about my green card. I'm going to win that one first. And then, you know, I keep telling myself, it'll be there. It'll take another 18 months to get the card, maybe 2 years. It's going to be there. Ain't going nowhere, you know.
How did the involvement with David Bowie come about?
Well, he sort of seems to be in New York, right? And I seem to be the guy in New York that all the Englishmen say hi to, you know. And which is good, you know. If Mick's in town, Paul's in town, anybody comes, I love it, you know. All the rockers come and say, hey, what's happening, you know. And I'm supposed to show them what's happening. Or they already know, most of them anyway. And I got to know David through Mick, really, although I'd met him once before. And next minute he says, hello, John, I'm doing Across the Universe. Do you want to come on down? So I said, all right, you know, I live here. I popped down and I played rhythm, you know. And then he had this lick, you know, we'd finished Across the Universe, and this guitarist had a lick, so we sort of wrote this song, you know. It was no big deal. We just sort of, oh, boom, 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 you know, like that. It wasn't like sitting down to write a song, so we made this lick into a song is what happened. And that's how it happened, and there it is, you know. And people are always saying, well, what's he doing with Elton John and David Bowie? I'm doing it because it's fun, you know. He used to do it, like we used to have Brian Jones on You Know My Name, a Beatles number. You know, he's playing on that, playing sax, you know. But in those days, you couldn't tell. You weren't supposed to tell. So we'd have a lot of people on our sessions, the Beatles sessions, and nobody would know who was on because we weren't allowed to tell. Then it went through the phase where you said, you know, Johnny O'Len is playing guitar, or George O'Harris, George has some name, he's played on everybody's records. But now you just put your name on it, you know, as long as the company knows. And it's cool, you know, especially if you're doing nothing.
Yeah, because you seem to have really enjoyed the things you did with Elton.
Oh, yeah. Well, Elton and I are very close, you know. David, I know him quite well, but I don't know him as well as Elton. It was just, you know, what do you say? I'm doing your song, you want to come? All right, I'll come.
Did the live thing that you did with Elton prompt you to start thinking about going on the road again?
No, well, my quote was, when I came off, I enjoyed it a lot, but I wouldn't like to do it for a living. You know, I mean, if I can live without doing it, I'll do it. If I get the urge to perform, you know, I'll do it. And if I do a tour ever, I'll wait till my green card and I'll do a tour of the world, you know. I don't just going around in circles a bit, you know. I may as well do it all. But I always was a record man, you know. I mean, I like the studio always best once I got the hang of it and the control of it. I like it because it's complete control. And even as a fan when I was younger, I wasn't that mad on seeing the artist live. I like the record, you know. I like the record of Bebopaloola, say. I'm not particularly mad on seeing Gene Vincent every time he came to town. You know, I wasn't that upset that Elvis never came to England. I'll go for the records, the pre-army records, you know. So records is what I was hooked on. You know, if they came around, I might go see, you know.
The inevitable question. You know, I mean,
are they ever going to get back together?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, is there any possibility? But secondly, much more important, do you think that it's a good idea?
Well, that's another point altogether, whether it'd be a good idea or not. You see, it's strange, because at one period when they're asking me, I was saying, no, never, what the hell, go back, no, not me. And then there came to a period when I thought, well, why not, if we felt like making a record or doing something. Everybody always envisages the stage show. To me, if we worked together at studio again, you know, the stage show something else. If we got something to say in a studio, okay. Now, when I'm saying that, I turn the paper and George is saying, not me, right? It's never got to a position where each one of us have wanted to do it at the same time. I think over the period of being apart, we've all thought, oh, that wouldn't be nice. That wouldn't be bad, you know. I mean, I've worked with Ringo and George. I haven't worked with Paul because we had a more difficult time, but now we're pretty close, you know. So, and the other question is, would it be worth it? You know, but that is answered by if we wanted to do it. If we wanted to do it, then it'd be worth it. If we got in a studio together and thought we turn each other on again, then it would be worth it, you know. And sod the critics, you know. I mean, you know, they've got nothing to do with it. You know, the music is the music. If we make a piece that we think was worthwhile, it goes out. But it's such a, you know, it's pie in the sky, you know. I don't care either way, you know. If somebody wants to pull it together, I'll go along, you know. I'm not in the mood to pull it together, that's for sure. I've got too much, I think we all have got too much to do ourselves. But if they were all in town, I'd say, come on down, you know, put them on my record, right? Then it'd be a Beatle record. But if they were around, you know, I jammed with Paul. I did actually play with Paul, yeah. We did a lot of stuff in LA. But there was 50 other people playing too, and they're all just watching me and Paul, you know.
Yeah. You must be pleased with what Paul's doing now, John. The
I'm
band on the
pleased that
run.
everybody's doing well, you know.
Yeah.
I'm more pleased that Ringo's doing well, you know, that
Yeah.
he's got himself a good niche. Because I knew Paul would be all right. What the hell am I worried about him? You know, I know he's going to be all right.
In retrospect now, do you regret How Do You Sleep?
No, somebody said the other day, it's about me. You know, I regret that it was so... Not what the song is. Two things I regretted. One, that there was so much talk about Paul. I mean, they missed the song. It was a good track. And I should have, you know, kept my mouth shut. Not on the song. It could have been about anybody, you know. I mean... And when you look at them back, you know, Dylan said it about his stuff, that he found out most of it's about him. I wrote a sort of Son of How Do You Sleep on Walls and Bridges. I can't remember the name, Steel and Glass, which I thought was about a few people, but then I realised, no, it's me again. So it's not about Paul, it's about me, you know, I'm really attacking myself. But I regret the association, but what a regret, you know, I mean, he lived through it. The only thing that matters is how he and I feel about those things, and not what about, you know, the writer or the commentator thinks about it. You know, him and me are okay, so I don't care what they say about that. You know, I can go through my thing. I've always been a little different. You know, Lennon blasts Hollies. You know, that was one of the early steps. I mean, I've always been that. Our first national press was me beating up a disc jockey at Paul's 21st party. That was the first Beatles national press, and we got the back page of the Mirror. I've always been a little, you know, loose. And I hope it'll change, because I'm fed up of waking up in the papers, you know. But if it doesn't, you know, my friends are my friends, whatever way. You know.
Let's talk about the new album, John, because really the recording of the new LP spanned quite
It
a long time.
spanned many
didn't it?
eons, Bob,
Yes.
many eons. Well, the rock and roll album, folks, started in '73 after I'd finished Mind Games, and I was really in the middle of that, oh, you know, what's going on, mother, life, help. And I'd just done Mind Games, and I was taught, you know, how can I have some fun instead of all this writing my feelings in these songs, you know, being the writer and the artist, you know. I thought, what can I do to, you know, break that regime of, you know, writing the song, John Lennon writes new song, is it about him or is it about Paul or, you know, whatever. So I thought, I know, I'm always in between takes, and with the Beatles too, always would break into Bebop-a-Lula, or we'd always jam those songs, you know. They're my favourite songs, a lot of them. And I never did them because I admired the original so much I wouldn't dare touch them. But by now people are ruining everything, so I thought, why can't I do it? You know, they're all doing it, so what the hell, you know. So I thought, I know, who shall I use, you know? The great Phil Spector, you know. I'd used him before, but I'd always controlled it and been co-producer. But this one, it took me 3 weeks to talk him into being the producer. I said, look, I'm Ronnie on this one, all right? I just want to sing. I don't want to know nothing about nothing. So we started the sessions, and they went well, and then they gradually collapsed into mania, you know. It's one way of putting it. But it definitely got crazy, you know. There was 28 guys playing a night, and 15 of them were out their minds, including me. And the sessions broke down. We broke them down pretty well, me and Phil. They got really balmy, you know. I'm not even going to say what happened. Some of it was ridiculous. And that's the first time I ever let an album out of my control since the first Beatle albums. I never do it again. You know? And next minute, I didn't have the tapes, and Phil had a car accident. That's all I heard. I waited 8 months in LA, waiting for him to recover.
Where was he at that point, John?
He's a mysterious man. His woodwork to perform, my dear. Phil works in such mysterious ways. His woodwork to perform. He's a great artist, but like all artists, it's, you know, anyway, all I knew, I was sitting around in LA waiting for the tapes to finish the album, right? So I got, and that's how I ended up doing Harry. I was just hanging out with you know, guys, and all we were doing was getting drunk and, you know, waking up, you know, sick. So that's how I said to Harry, let's forget this, let's do something, you know. So then after that, I came home to New York, and I was, by then I'd straightened myself out, and I was ready to do Walls and Bridges, and I was straight and, you know, no drink, right? And I thought, okay, I'm ready to record. The day before I go in to record, I get the tapes back. We finally made a deal. It had to do with deals, as usual. I get the Phil Spector tapes back. There's about 8 tracks. Half of them you couldn't use, you know, for one reason or another. Like, if you've got 10 people playing out of tune, and the other, you know, I mean, like that Angel Baby is a phenomenal. track. You know, so I sorted out the best of the Spectre stuff, what I thought was the best, and decided the best way to finish it was to just go in and finish it. So I did the rest of it by myself, using the basic unit that I usually use, about 8 guys. And I did it in about 5 days, you know, 3 tracks a night, you know. I just said, rock and roll, okay, rock. And we just went in. I rehearsed them a couple of days beforehand, so they were loose. Then we just went in and did, like, take 1, Stand By Me, take 2, Bebop Alula. You know, the opposite of what was going on down on the West Coast. And this was a year later. I did that after Walls and Bridges. I took about a couple of weeks off, and then it was a choice of either just leaving it forever and never putting it out, or trying to find some format for 4 or 5 Spectre tracks, which I didn't think were singles. You know, they might be, I couldn't tell, you know. I was so sick of the whole thing. So I thought, now what do I do? Just leave it in the can. I hate leaving stuff in the can. I've got no stuff in the can, neither of the Beatles. And I thought, okay, finish it off and see what it is, you know. So I finished it off, and I played it round to a few people that weren't me. And they said, I played it to the record company. I didn't know what to do with it. I said, yeah, I don't know whether to release it even. You know, I've got it off my chest, I've finished it. And they all said, this is all right. It's all right, let's put it out. I said, it's all right, is it? Okay, we'll put it out. And then once it went out, I thought, great, it's out, you know. It's out after, because I've never been so long on an album in my life. It was longer than Sgt. Pepper, you know. I normally take 8 weeks to make an album from start to finish and out in the shops, you know, otherwise I get bored, and this has been going on and on.
Presumably when the green card comes through, when we'll see you in England.
Oh, you bet, of course. Yeah. I've got family in England, you know. I've got a child who has to keep travelling. Oh, hello, Julian. Got it in already. I've got my Auntie Mimi. Hello, Mimi, and all my other relatives who are furious at me, but we won't say why. But anyway, Mimi isn't.
Oh, let's stop there, John.
Yeah.
Thanks very much indeed.
It's a pleasure.
Really pleasure to meet you.
And you. Hello, England. Keep sending those chocolate Olivers. Keep your chin up. We'll meet again. I don't know where, don't know when.